the beautiful rendition of Imagine, a song that has inspired our World Peace Congress not long ago, last October. And that continues to be an inspirational song for all of us, if not for many of us. Today, this is a moment of celebration. And I am deeply honored, I would say, to co-moderate this gathering, this celebration, with no less than our Deputy Executive Director at IPB, Sean Connor. Sean?
Yes, I'm much more honored to be co-moderating with you, Cora. It's truly a pleasure to work with such great colleagues in the Asia-Pacific region and, of course, all around the world. So thank you to all for joining us today. And we will start with some quick words of greeting from the Executive Director of the International Peace Bureau. This is Rainer Braun.
Yeah, dear colleagues and dear friends, it's a pleasure to speak about the most prestigious award in the world, the Nobel Peace Prize. And the history of these prizes is deeply connected to the history of IPB. The idea for this prize, given by Alfred Nobel and his money earned from oil and dynamite, this also was used and is used for weapons. So he changed his mind during his life. And who convinced him to give the award to the world was Bertha von Suttner. Her famous book, The Weapons Down, I think is even more important now than it ever was when we are looking to Ukraine. And Bertha von Suttner had a deep friendship with Alfred Nobel. And by their walks through Geneva, she convinced him to give his money for this award. And this Bertha von Suttner, this Austrian lady, aristocrat, was really one of the first famous peace activists in the world. She was developing and organizing World Peace Congresses, and that is the relation to IPB. She was a founding member of the International Peace Bureau, which was founded in 1891. We had last year our 130th anniversary. We celebrate this with a very actual meeting, the World Congress in Barcelona. But IPB is also a Nobel Peace Organization. We got the Nobel Peace Prize in 1910. That is our relations to these prizes, and it is also very actual circumstances. We are a part of an international committee of the Nobel Peace Prize Awards, people which are organizing all 2 years big events in the world. So IPB, with its actions against nuclear weapons, for a world without nuclear weapons, against military spending and a world free of wars, is deeply connected politically and personally to these Nobel Peace Prize. So I'm happy that we could make this event today, which shows this tradition and shows also how important it is that we engage ourselves year to year with good suggestions for the prize. And I'm very happy that we have decided last year to give the award to these two distinguished organizations and persons, which I will speak today and will be recognized today. So the Nobel Peace Award is important, but more important is the actions of the people. That is the tradition of IPB. We are staying for this tradition. And I'm very thankful that I had the opportunity to be today to open this meeting, and I wish the meeting all the best. And I know our suggestions are the best. And what great surprise it would be when we could, at the end of this year, celebrate that one of these two would get the Nobel Peace Prize. That could be an even bigger celebration. Thank you.
Thank you, Rainer. I thought you were going to introduce the two Nobel nominees, but anyway, maybe we can do that later. But in the tradition of the Pacific Islands, You know, when we have the celebration, we have to start with a traditional chant. And I think this afternoon, we are going to be led to that traditional chant by no less than one among us here, Mr. Cepeda. I'm missing his name, his first name, I'm very sorry.
Jeremy.
Jeremy Cepeda, the virtual floor is yours, Jeremy. Lead us into the chant.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the introduction. And thank you everyone for being here this evening. If I may, before I begin my chant, I would like for us, if we can, to offer a brief moment of silence for our brothers and sisters in Ukraine and other places all over the world that might not even be known at this moment, for all the people who are suffering and who have passed on from the atrocities of war. If I could ask you all to join me in taking at least 3 deep breaths to acknowledge our brothers and sisters in the world. Thank you. The chant I would like to share with you this evening is entitled Man Etnun Hit, and it is in Finohaza, the Chamorro language. And I'll just let you know the meaning so that we all can understand. And so it was a chant of thanksgiving, giving thanks so that we can learn to be gracious for all the everyday miracles that we seem to take for granted sometimes. And so Man Etnun Hit means we come together. And we come together here today to praise the Lord, the Most High, for all the great things He has done for our lives, for each other, for our elders, for our ancestral words of wisdom, for the things we have and all the great things that has been provided for us. And so shall it be that way. Amen. Man etnun hit wini pagu natatuna siya saina izahululu nui gefinatina siha nui lina lata nui zahita nui manyai nata nui paatasiha nui guina hota Zan hokoko kazuniha na Guahan Tai Gwenau Mohon. So this is Marcia. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. It's really great to start the meeting with, on one hand, such beautiful sounds, and on the other hand, such a beautiful message of thanks that really starts our event off with something really peaceful and wonderful. From here, we will now move on to also include some poetry. So we have now Dr. Kisha Borja and Quichocho Calvo. Please excuse my butchering of these names. I'm learning. I'm trying here, anyways. But we have 2 poems about the strength of the Chamorro women. So, Dr. Kisha, if you would, please go ahead.
Right, Sitas Maasi, or thank you very much. Buenas and Hafade Tuduhamzu. Gwasi Kisha, I'm truly honored to be part of this event commemorating the International Peace Bureau's 2022 Nobel Peace nominees, including our Auntie Saina Hope Cristobal and Hibakusha. You are inspirations to all of us. And thank you, Sandangkluna Sitas Maasi, for all the work that you do for all of our communities around the world. Tonight I'll be sharing two poems. So the first poem is called Hagan Hagatnia, which means daughter of her blood. And it is a piece about Chamorro womanhood and female empowerment, which I thought fitting to share this evening. Hagan Hagatnia. Okay, so the first piece again is called Hagan Hagatnia. I come from the blood of my mother's mother and my mother's mother's mother. I chant this to Iman Mofo na nafamalaw and ini natano, the first woman of this land, because my blood is of their blood flowing through my veins. I am the perpetuation of their bloodline, the product of their stories. I am the dream they saw thousands of years ago. I am the reflection of Iginatbut Niha, their beauty. I am the inheritor of their wisdom. Imananhum Niha. I am the Nidzok offspring of the Chonkan Lanatla brought by the first Famalawan who sailed to Guahan. I am the life that my Nana and her Nana chanted to our ancestors for. I am grounded in Inanantanu with roots flowing through lands and flowing through me, intertwined with intergenerational bloodlines of Famalawan from the mother island. I am from Sabanan Magas, the mountain of the chiefs. I am of Manmaga Haga, my blood flowing from female clan leaders. I am a Fuatsan from Malauan. I am Fortna's vision that came to fruition. My name is Palauan Tano. Haganan to know who my name is, woman of the land, daughter of my mother island. My second poem is called Hagu Ipilan di Langit, which means you are the moon in the sky. And it is a poem I wrote especially for Auntie Hope, inspired by all of the work she's done and continues to do for our community here in Guahan, the rest of the Marianas, Oceania, and the world. Hagu ipilan gilangit para si Tia Hope. Hagu ipilan gilangit. Zan kalan ipilan gilangit un pupulan zan sa tulani ham gihinaw nan mami. Kada dia zan kada pangi gagagihaw para hami. You are the moon in our sky, guiding the children of your blood and of our land cycle after cycle, year after year, dedicating your whole being to ensuring that our islands and our people are whole beings. And just as the moon remains present, even when it shares the sky with the sun or the clouds, you are there, steadfast in your wisdom and your teachings, the rest of us looking to you in perpetual awe, seeking your guidance and searching for the lessons in the craters and crevices that cradle the gifts of consciousness. In our creation story, Fuatna used Pontan's eye to make the moon. Imatanya became the light sources for our people. Imataniha has become Imatamu. Wisdom rooted in millennial-old Minenhalam, ancestral insight that you gift us with throughout the 13 cycles. Tumaiguini, Adahi Ifinota, Maimo, be an activist, an active protector of our home. Umatala Putehi, Itasita, Lumuhu, teach our history and our culture. Makmamau, Putehi Itanota, Mananaf, protect the bones and stones of our ancestors. Semu, fight for our right to self-determination. Teno, stand for what we believe in. Lumamlam, demilitarize and question. Does the military give a damn? Pangwalu, live off our lands. Sumongsong, maintain the role of Nana and Tata. Umadzengen, perpetuate peace. Umagahaf, there is strength and power in Famalauan, in Tautautano, and Tautautasi, your lessons remind us we are here because of you, Auntie Hope, and all the elders who chose to speak, to stand, to dream, to hope. And because of you, we can speak and stand and dream and hope. Watch over and guide the next generations. Teach them to guard and protect the place and people and culture we call home. Thank
you for that, Kisha. It's difficult to speak after your poetry. And oh my God, the poetry from the Pacific, there's just simply beautiful and inspirational. So thank you for that. That's not all that we have. We have more friends. So hold your breath. We have more, and I'm now going to call on another friend from the Pacific, Odesha San Nicolas, who has prepared a montage that will kind of contain the voices and the greetings and all the messages coming from Hope's friends and colleagues. So can we have that montage, Des?
Sorry, Odessa, did you want to say a few words about the montage before we begin, or should I dive right into it?
You can dive right into it, but yes, it was an honor to do the video. And thank you everyone who contributed to it. The messages were overwhelming and so true.
Sorry, just 1 second, I'll have it up.
The United States of America is a former colonies got together and made a nation state, and then betray the very values they proclaimed the reason why they wanted to be independent, and they took over other people's land as unsinkable battleships and places for them to control their empire, and on Guam at the expense of the Chamorro people. And Hope Alvarez Cristobal has been a consistent champion.
Her commitment is just consistent. She never stops questioning motive. She never stops questioning outcomes. She never stops questioning consequences.
She is a ferocious advocate fighting for the protection of our rights, our land, our people, and our ancestors.
There's no other voice louder and clearer, more articulate and more consistent, as far as I'm concerned, than Hope's voice in reminding us of our sacred responsibility to take care of the sacred remains of our ancestors and the land and the legacy that they left us.
Nobody can match Sign Hope Cristobal. She's a person of dignity, integrity, perseverance, and
encourages us to think about how we deserve better as an island that has too long been colonized, but also how our story connects to the larger global story, that unless there is justice in Guahan, there is no justice in the world. And without justice in the world, we will never know peace here either.
We fight so hard every day for these rights of collective recognition, restorative justice, and even our daily existence is so caught up in this survival that we forget to honor and validate ourselves.
Some of the work we engage in is so heartbreaking, unpopular, hard, especially living in this colony we are in today.
And sometimes that requires confrontation, and Hope is not afraid to confront power with truth.
It's okay for us Chamorro women to be loud and to be proud to be Chamorro, to stand up for what's right and to do it all unapologetically.
She would remind me that we are family because we share a commitment to the region, to the island and her people.
Putting her work and her example as an inspiration before others.
Unflagging good humor she shows always, and her relentless pursuit of peace and justice.
There are none more deserving to receive the Nobel Peace Prize than Auntie Hope Alvarez Cristobal, who paves new paths for all of us every day.
She, in my view, she truly is a Malahaga of our time.
Her spiritual approach, respect for nature, being in tune with the Hawamtano and ancestral spirits, resonated with many of us.
When our most vulnerable women and children were voiceless in the face of violence, Hope helped organize Fuetsan Famalawan.
You're always at the forefront of fighting for our people in the Marianas, and you're truly an inspiration.
A lot of us wouldn't be doing the work that we're doing without your loving guidance and your vision.
You show us what it means to live your entire life, living and speaking and acting for genuine security and for peace.
And are continually inspired by everything you do as our Saina,
guardian of land, water, ancestral sites and practices.
Your brilliance, how fierce, how loving, how steadfast you are, and for the big and small ways you continue to guide us.
You've inspired the next generation of activists with all the work that you've done for Guahan and for our region.
You are just such an excellent choice for Guam, for the Pacific, for the world.
Certainly is something that I've always admired her when she has been involved with many of the activities in the international arena and also her great activities in Guahan.
We are so very proud of you and very grateful for all the work that you've done for us.
Congratulations on your nomination!
Viva Namana! The United States of America.
Oh, beautiful video. And I think we are going now directly into our next video as well. So if you'll bear with me one more second here, just as I prepare that up, we have a message from the governor and lieutenant governor. All right.
Hafaday, as an exemplary educator, farmer, indigenous rights leader, and peacemaker, Hope Cristobal embodies the essence of the Chamorro people of Guam. In the face of contemporary challenges, often outside her control, she has spent her life securing the Chamorro identity and promoting self-determination for all indigenous peoples.
Among her many lifetime achievements, Hope has offered the most valued contributions to our island in the forms of legislation as a former senator of the Guam legislature, national advocacy as a member of community decolonization groups, and international diplomacy as a reliable and vital voice for Guam at the United Nations.
I've had the fortune of witnessing firsthand the fierce and unrelenting passion of Hope and her aspirational ability to build Chamorro nationhood. As colleagues in the legislature and founding members of Fuetsan Famalawan, I have seen Hope's dedication to reasserting the role of women in policy, confronting militarization, and addressing Guam's political status.
As the architect of the Commission on Decolonization, Hope has significantly furthered the inalienable rights and dignity of all indigenous peoples. She has served honorably at the forefront of the Chamorro and human cause and has forged a fraternity between underserved people across the world. Her legacy will promote a peaceful world order, the sanctuary of Guam's democracy, and the protection of the Chamorro people.
In recognition of her impact on several generations of Guam advocates, it is our firm belief that her accomplishments have conferred the greatest benefit to humankind and is deserving of the highest commendation. On behalf of our administration and the people of Guam, thank you very much to the International Peace Bureau for your nomination of Hope for the prestigious Nobel Peace Prize. Thank you to all honorees and members for your decades of hard work and dedication to a more peaceful and just world.
Thank you. Well, friends, that's from the executive of Guam. I think next we shall now witness, another dimension of Hope's life and work. And we shall now give way to our next speaker, the Speaker of the House, Therese Terlaje, and a dear friend, now a senator of Guam, Senator Sabina Perez.
Day. We are very honored tonight to present a resolution from the 36th Guam legislature. I'm here with Senator Sabina Perez. We're also joined via Zoom by Senator Joanne Brown and former Senator Kelly Marsh Taitano. We are presenting a resolution from the 36th Guam legislature on behalf of all of my colleagues and on behalf of the people of Guam, relative to congratulating the Honorable Hope Alvarez Cristobal, former senator, on her 2022 Nobel Peace Prize nomination from the International Peace Bureau. Hope, it's not a surprise to us that she's been nominated because she has a lifetime of educating all of us, a lifetime of community work, a lifetime as an advocate, a lifetime for Chamorro rights, to protection of Chamorro burials, for Chamorro self-determination, all of that rooted in peace. Sus Maasi, Senator Hope, and Senator Sabina.
So I'm really happy to be here to share this moment with Senator Hope Cristobal. She has been a mentor to all of us, including myself, and advocating for the human right for self-determination, for Chamorro self-determination. And what I want everyone to know is that that work is rooted in the peace of the Marianas and the Pacific, which is so needed today. And so thank you so much.
Senator, and Speaker.
Yes, so on behalf of the 36th Guam legislature, we present this to you on behalf of the people of Guam, and it's decades of inspiration that she has had. So you see us, some of the people who she has inspired, but there are so many more on Guam and worldwide. And so whereas the former Senator Cristobal has and continues to be one of Guam's most accomplished and distinguished leaders, her years of dedicated service for the betterment of Guam's education system, her guidance, innovative ideas, and time spent in community work, and her strength, tenacity, and willingness to sacrifice for Chamorro self-determination, combined with the sensitivity and intention she brings to Chamorro ancestral burial and reinterment sites and ceremonies, have inspired others to do the same, following in her fight for a better quality of life for Guam, a united community practicing sustainable living, Chamorro self-determination, and peace. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Committee on Rules of Imina 36 na Legislature in Guahan does hereby, on behalf of the people of Guam, congratulate the Honorable Hope Alvarez Cristobal, former senator, on her 2022 Nobel Peace Prize nomination from the International Peace Bureau.
For coming to my home, which is where my heart is. And I'm so happy that I'm surrounded by my family here tonight. And I just, this is pretty overwhelming, really. It's not anything that we should all expect, but we know that the work is truly important. And I ask that we all continue to work as long as we are breathing. The work must continue. And so I really thank the IPB and our leaders here in Guam the governor, the lieutenant governor, Speaker Therese Terlahi, Senator Sabina Perez, who is my oversight chair for soil and water contaminations. I really, truly am just profoundly grateful for this evening and for this nomination.
Diva. Diva.
All right. So thank you for that amazing and touching presentation. So before we continue, actually, I just have to make a quick clarification. It seems there may have been a little confusion with the schedule. I believe we are going now to an introduction of Hope by her grandchildren, followed by Hope's speech. But Lisa, can you confirm with me, because I also see the dancers.
Yeah, no, that's correct, Sean.
Okay.
We have
So we will have the
one
dancing after
video of her
Hope's
grandkids,
speech.
and then she'll do her speech. Yes.
Okay.
Then the dancers are after.
Yep. Okay, so with no further ado then, we will give our quick introduction to Auntie Hope from her grandchildren. She's right here.
Hi, I'm Enrico Calori.
I'm Emmanuel Calori. And I'm Lucia Calori.
And Hope Cristobal is our Nana and Biha.
We would like to congratulate her on her nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize. And we have a few things to say about her. We love her, and she's an amazing cook. Her food is delicious, and we love picking stuff from her farm. She grows fresh vegetables and takes care of the animals.
Her animals include chickens and dogs, and they're so adorable, especially Chunky, who's so stupid.
And he's very fluffy. She also protects our culture and stands up for what's right on our island. And she really goes over the top of giving us affection, toys, and many other things that are sweet and delicious.
Even while we were in COVID, she helped deliver us our necessary foods, like food and groceries.
And so we want to say we love her and congratulations, Nana.
Hi.
Ready? Minagufuing. Greetings, honorable members of the International Peace Bureau, co-nominees, the courageous Hibakusha, whose calls we echo for global disarmament and an end to nuclear devastation, and all co-visionaries for a world without war. I am profoundly honored to stand in solidarity with you for justice and genuine security. This nomination acknowledges our people's unity in the fight for true liberation and the many ways we are scarred by war and nuclear violence. Today, the IPB helps cast the world's gaze upon the Pacific, providing us a world forum in which we can speak our truth. We are overwhelmed with war propaganda amidst our collective trauma in a relentless global pandemic. We watch war and destruction in Ukraine and bear with atrocities to civilians. Averse to our nature, we cannot allow ourselves to become desensitized. Rising tensions for global domination and war preparations are unfolding in the pivot to the Pacific. We are fraught with the enduring nuclearization and legacy of violent environmental racism, erasure, and displacement from nuclear testing. We know the clear connections between colonization, militarization, capitalism, genocide, white supremacy, and racial violence. As islanders, we understand the limitations of our resources in an unforgiving climate crisis, exacerbated by increased militarization, war, and environmental degradation. Sadly, Guam is the example of the hard lessons of colonization in Micronesia. It is as if war has actually never left. Our people have suffered numerous harms since US colonial control in 1898. including illnesses and soil and water contaminations. Even now, the US Air Force plans to blow up bombs and burn toxic waste along our northern coastline on ancestral lands. Rare illnesses and conditions are associated with this exposure, with cancer being the second highest leading cause of death on Guam. We may feel restless as empire tests the bounds of our dignity, our identities, and Mother Earth. Yet we are bound as people, not in trauma alone, but in our resilience and our eager anticipation for peace in our Pacific home. We continue our unwavering commitment for future generations and the earth reflected in the vast expanse of our languages, lifeways, stories, songs, prayers, and pleas, and in our actions for peace. How is it possible that we continue to rise from despair when empire exhausts us and beats us down, when all our resources are spent for survival? For if colonization and militarization were to evaporate, we would see the ends to poverty, hunger, and exploitation of people and planet, and a halt to climate change. With the end of such violent oppression, we could realize our most magnificent dreams and finally be able to truly cultivate our indigenous brilliance. In the face of such crises, how are we to maintain our commitment toward true sovereignty? From where does this come? We know it comes from the love and strength of our ancestors, our elders, and the lands and heritage that have been gifted to us. We know it comes from our connections with each other, with our communities, our families, our friends, and groups of indigenous activists and women throughout our region. I am reminded of Darlene Keju and Tony DeBrum of the Marshalls, of Gabriela Nermang and Roman Bedor of Palau, who risked their lives fighting for a nuclear-free Pacific, and of powerful organizers like Christina Stinnett of Chuk. Their brilliant examples inspire me. Lest I forget the many decades dedicated by the Organization of People for Indigenous Rights to advance Chamorro self-determination. Guam's first delegation to the United Nations, Robert Underwood, Ron Tehan, and Chris Paris Howard, and later Ronald Rivera, and many others. And I shall not forget a bright young attorney, BJ Cruz, who prompted a die-in demonstration in our capital of Higaña. Sirens blared a nuclear attack, warning us. We laid our bodies down in afternoon traffic. And with ease of inherent gender-neutral words in Chamorro, indigenous queerness was at the center of our movement. We accept our differences and we unite in our love for the work of peace. Many Chamorro groups advance these efforts. Guahan, Coalition for Peace and Justice, Fuetzan Famalauan, Ihagan Famalauan Guahan, Independent Guahan, and Protehilitekjan Safe Ritidian. My primary source of inspiration has been the Chamorro women in my life. My mother, Francisca Taimanglo Navarro Alvarez. My godmother, Mariquita Quituguat Flores. My grandmother, Nanambija Angela Taimanglo Navarro. And Nina and Vicenta Taimanglo Cruz, with several aunts, all of whom we titled Nan or Mom as children. These sisters of our parents are our other mothers who strengthen the bonds of our clans and culture. Embodying Chamorro identity, these women enculturated values and practices that have made me who I am today. Their seamless role in my life inspired that I was in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. A respected traditional leader, my grandmother refused to speak English and never stepped foot in a hospital, even after she broke her hip from a fall. With machete strapped to her waist, I accompanied her to gather medicinal plants. She had a spirit guide or tautomona and made me understand that ancestral spirits will always protect our family. Family rituals of coming together to share food and menenhalum, wisdom nurtured and revitalized our bodies, minds, and spirits. With this powerful network of elder women, from our Ataigwa, Matanoni, Fegodgut, and Taimanglu clans, one could take refuge from harm. I learned ways of healing and how they protect each other, ways our culture instills Minetgut, a foreign concept in comparison to the rugged individualism of American capitalism and empire. We are rooted in lands passed down through our matrilineal ties. With 2 years left from cancer, my mother spent time at Manyengun and Famha, where she grew up with her Alabado clan. This connection runs deep, knowing we are among ancestors. My students once encountered backhoe archaeology on sacred burials at what is today Guam's tourist district. I rushed to inform my mother, who hastened to the site. The image of my mother dropping to her knees, grabbing sand to cover human remains, and crying out to ancestors for forgiveness is unforgettable. In fact, all hotels, without exception, have defiled hundreds of ancestral burials. This is one of many events that have shaped my life. Our genealogies are tied with the land. For decades, we've confronted many human and indigenous rights violations. We have worked tirelessly to expose injustices and toxic hazardous waste contaminations. Numerous environmental impact statements under federal requirements are exercises in futility because they exclude our people's greater call for self-determination and decolonization. A history of war caused Guam's current colonial reality with massive military expansion. The Department of Defense occupies nearly 30% of land today. Our quest for sovereignty exceeds over a century as the US confounded the issue of universal rights of individuals with the special rights of indigenous peoples at the brink of extinction. Guam's status as a US unincorporated territory and a UN non-self-governing territory is tightly intertwined with US military presence, and we must battle both concurrently. For a new base and live fire training ranges, over 1,200 acres of forest is destroyed over Guam's sole source aquifer. Endangered and threatened species and ancestral remains are being destroyed as we challenge the persistent disregard for our right to free, prior, and informed consent regarding military expansion in Guam. Our arduous fight against the desecration of ancestral villages that contain sacred evidence of their free lives, as well as important fishing grounds, traditional medicine gathering places, and other sites of significance continue. We hold ceremonies to connect our community with ancestors disturbed in their final resting places. These include burials at Goknya, Matapang, Natun, Litekjan, Finigadzan, Matsanao, Sabanan Fadang, and Magwat, the site of the new US Marine base in northern Guam. It is in this turmoil that we must illuminate our history and traditions with offerings, songs, stories, and chants to restore and strengthen community reverence, respect, and love for our people, all that is sacred as we invoke our Creator to give us peace. Our ancestors bequeathed us with the spirit that makes possible our survival. Ancestral remains are not mere artifacts. There was blood flowing, skin and muscle on those bones. They and we are Tautautanu, the people of the land. We literally breathe the same air they breathed millenniums ago. They were a free people, are linked to sovereignty. Guam and the rest of Micronesia are obviously chosen sites of empire because we are far away from mainstream America and benign ignorance that buys into the myth that war paves the path to freedom. We hope to appeal to the humanity of our colonizers, to make them see something of us in themselves, to know the realities of colonized peoples. We wish for them to see from our worldview so that they can join us in maintaining our rights as indigenous people. It is too easy to destroy, but they have no right. They must understand the hurt and the pining to return to our lands and the grief and deep loss we all carry. We truly wish to leave the world a better place,
not just of luxuries or material things. Our heritage, freedom, and peace should never be counted as luxuries. We desire to eradicate the economics of apathy, the logic of fear, and the demand for domination and control that keep us from liberation. We will advance in our purpose and vision with dignity. There is much to be done. We must revitalize our relationships with the rest of Micronesia. We must safeguard our heritage from empire. We cannot give up Tinian and Pagan, and we must caution Babodop about destructive military occupation and exercises. Our humanity is constantly being challenged by ways of warring. 17th century Jesuit accounts recognize our indigenous values of compassion and mercy. In times of battle, warring groups pause to care for the wounded, and if there was no cause to continue, would retreat. We must embody such empathy, kindness, and care in these increasing volatile times. In closing, I emphasize that I share this prestigious honor as a Nobel Peace nominee from Guam. I share it with our Pacific region and many champions for peace who speak truth to power and who refuse to die in fear. In this work, we sacrifice time with those we love most. I thank my husband, Andy, and our children, their partners, and my grandchildren. To my daughters who are now mothers themselves, Sidzuus Maasi, for joining protests and offering your own words for our people. I'm confident that my grandchildren, your children, are part of the next generations who will promote our language, our heritage, and vision for true peace and genuine security. There is so many in our movement, and I cannot name you all, but I thank you for your friendship, knowledge, courage, and commitment. We are truly grounded in love. I appreciate this opportunity to address you with words that I hope will unite us to improve the lives of our Pacific sisters and brothers and the world. Sidzuus Maasi and Sidzuus Impambinindi.
Okay. It's so difficult to pick up after Sina Hope's message to everyone. But thank you so much for so much, for remembering people who are not with us here now. Your message have so much defiance as well, call for justice. You have represented and really voiced the aspirations of the peoples of the Pacific and of the world. And thank you so much for that. Viva Sina Hope, Viva Guahan. We will now proceed with a dance. This is something that I hope we will all enjoy. And we will now call on Inetnan Get Pagu Cultural Arts Program, the performance of Chamorro dance of the legend of the Maidens who saved Guahan. And we are going to be led by Pim Limtaco and Jereza Camacho. So,
Hapaday Sina Hope, Hapaday Manyanakos and Manyanuhu, Sidzuus Maasi, Sina Hope, Nutoru Itetomu, Nibidamu, Parahami, Ifamaguan, Sidzuus Maasi, Astina Baila, put ego donkulu naglihan, Nihatagi Hakano is Lata. Ginin Minatgo, and Minasko Nifamalawan, Matsumi Gaputilunya, Jamakatina Donkulu Natalaza, Jamakoni Igwihan. Pues Perahu Iminatgo Nifamalawan Wini, and Iminatgoku. Sidzuus Maasi Sina Hope, Salani Hamotna, Sa in Dadalakau, the Sidzuus Maasi per Todu Bidamu, per Iminal Nakis Lata.
All right, I have been told I'm going to be playing the music from my computer and giving a countdown. So I will count down because I don't know this music too well, just from 10, counting backwards, and then we will begin. So with no further ado, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sorry, just an apology from our end. There was some audio issues there, so I have to apologize. But I think regardless, the dance there was absolutely beautiful, and we thank the dancers for really a great performance, regardless of our audio issues from our end. So thank you again, and with that in mind, we will then continue to our next session here. We are now going to hear a speech from Mr. Kido Suichi, the Nagasaki Hibakusha and Secretary General of Nihon Hidankyo.
はい、ありがとうございます。ノーベル平和賞に被爆者を推薦いただき、ありがとうございます。8月24日に始まったプーチン政権によるロシアのウクライナ侵略と核の威嚇は人類を滅ぼしかねない危険な許せない暴挙です。直ちにやめることを求めて、日本被団協は事務局長談話と世界在住の被爆者の共同声明を発表しました。 また、日本の政党である日本の維新の会が、日本の国是である非核三原則の見直しと、核兵器の共有を政府に求める提言を撤回するよう抗議いたしました。私は長崎の被爆者です。5歳でした。熱戦、爆風、火災で焼け落ちた、何もなくなった真っ黒の町。道に転がり、川に浮かび、重なった死体。水を求める人の姿を忘れることはできません。こんなことは二度と起こってはいけない。今日まで77年、変わらぬ思いです。被爆者が日本被団協を結成したのは1956年でした。被爆から11年が経っていました。米国の隠蔽弾圧と日本政府の被爆者遺棄により沈黙を余儀なくさせられたからです。日本国民は1954年の米国のビキニ環礁水爆実験の被害を知り、原水爆反対運動を起こし広げました。この国民運動に励まされて結成できたのです。日本被団協は自らを救うとともに、私たちの体験を通して人類の危機を救おうと決意し、今日まで再び被爆者を作るな、核戦争を起こすな、核兵器なくせ、原爆被害への国家保障を訴え求めてきました。日本被団協は初めから原爆核兵器が人間に何をもたらすか分かっていたわけではありません。被爆者支援者とともに原爆被害の実相を調べ、核兵器は絶滅だけを目的にした狂気の兵器、人間と共存できない絶対悪の兵器であることを明らかにし、核兵器の廃絶を訴えてきました。被爆者の訴えに応えて核兵器禁止条約が生まれました。核兵器の終わりの始まりです。被爆者は心から条約の成立を喜び歓迎しています。唯一の戦争被爆国を称する日本政府は、核兵器禁止条約に背を向け、原爆被害への国家保障を拒んでいます。原爆被害を初期放射線被害に限り、多くの原爆被害者を切り捨て、不十分な援護しか行っていません。特に許せないのは、原爆の最大の犠牲者である死亡者に償いをしていないことです。なぜ日本政府は原爆被害をこのように狭く、小さく、軽く見ているのでしょうか。私は2つの理由があると思います。一つは、原爆の投下によって戦争が終わり、多くの人の命が救われたという米日両政府が作り上げた虚構の原爆神話です。もう一つは、すべての日本国民は戦争による犠牲を我慢しなければならないという次のような戦争犠牲受任論です。およそ戦争という国の存亡をかけての非常事態のもとにおいては、国民はその生命、身体、財産などについて、その戦争によって何らかの犠牲を余儀なくされたとしても、それは国を挙げとの戦争による一 般の犠牲として、すべての国民が受任しなければならない。この戦争犠牲受任論は、日本国憲法の国民主権、基本的人権、平和主義に反する暴論です。しかし、歴代の日本保守政権は、先の戦争責任を取らず、自衛隊という軍隊を持ち、戦争是認政策を取ってきたのです。日本国民には、今こそ国民の命と暮らしを守り、平和な世界を作る責任、改憲を許さず、日本国憲法を守り生かす責任が課せられています。原爆投下という核実験のその場で被害に遭った広島、長崎の被爆者だけでなく、開発から相次ぐ実験にさらされ、受け入れがたい苦難と被害に苦しめられながら生きている多くの核兵器の被害者がいます。すべての核被害者に対する支援は喫緊の課題です。ロシアのウクライナ侵略から1ヶ月が過ぎました。この間、心の落ち着くことがありませんでした。考えさせられたことを述べさせていただきます。共にお考えください。一つは、国家間、国際的紛争を武力で解決することができるのでしょうか。私はこれまでもできなかったし、これからもできないと思います。次に、国民の命を奪い、国土を破壊して守る国とは一体何でしょうか。さらに、問題の解決に必要なことは、言論統制ではなく、表現の自由の保障と思います。表現の自由は、権力に対する抵抗というより、人と人の対話を保障する人間の最も根源的な行為ではないでしょうか。プーチン大統領のウクライナに対する戦争行為と核兵器の威嚇は収まるどころかひどくなっています。どうしたらこれを抑えることができるのでしょうか。唯一の方法は武力で対抗しないことに徹することだと思います。一時は支配、占領されるかもしれませんが、人の心まで奪うことはできません。ロシアの侵略は長くは続かないでしょう。ウクライナと世界市民は命を守り、自由に生きる日を迎えることができると確信しております。ありがとうございました。
Thank you so much, Kido-san. Arigato gozaimashita. In honoring the Hibakusha, we not only honor the Hibakusha of Hiroshima and Nagasaki that has been represented by Kido-san, but we will now listen to the Hibakusha in Korea. I don't have to explain the circumstances in 1945, but we not only speak of the Hibakusha from Korea, We also have Hibakusha from the Marshall Islands and in other parts of the world. But tonight, we will be listening to no less than the president of the Korean Atomic Bomb Casualty Association, Mr. Lee Gyu-yol. He's going to read his speech in Korean. That is going to be translated or interpreted by our friend Jung-Kyu Lee, and you will definitely get the English interpretation by pressing the button, the translation button below the Zoom window. So may I now call on Mr. Lee Gyu-kyo and Jung-Kyu Lee.
한국 원폭 피해자 최근 현황과 미해결 과제에 대해서 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 먼저 그 배경으로 1945년 미국의 원폭 투하로 히로시마, 나가사키에서 피폭된 한국인은 약 10만여 명으로 이 중 사망자는 5만여 명으로 추정됩니다.
I think we're having a slight issue there. Jung-Kyu, are you with us?
Oh my God, sorry. Yeah. My voice is muted. Yeah, sorry.
Hi. Jung-Kyu, I think your microphone is also a little bit quiet, so if you can just make sure you're holding it up close so that we can hear you well.
My voice is good now?
It's still quite quiet. Is it quiet for everyone else?
My voice is not.
Okay, now it's better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's take two here. I'll start the video over from the. Are we ready?
한국 원폭 피해자 최근 현황과
미해결
미해결 과제에 대해서 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 먼저 그 배경으로 1945년 미국의 원폭 투하로 히로시마, 나가사키에서 피폭된 한국인은 약 10만여 명으로 이 중 사망자는 5만여 명으로 추정됩니다. 이 중 상당수는 일제의 강제동원 피해자들입니다. 살아남은 피폭자 4만 3천여 명은 해방 후 고향으로 돌아왔으나 피폭 후유증으로 고생하다 죽어갔습니다. 원폭 피해자 협회에 등록된 한국 피폭 1세는 현재 1992명에 불과하며 한국 피해자 후손에 등록된 피폭 2세들은 현재 2798명입니다. 2013년 경상남도가 원폭 피해 1, 2, 3세 1125명을 조사했는데 전체 답변자의 20.2%가 자녀의 선천성 기형 또는 유전성 질환이 있다고 답변했습니다. 한국의 원폭 2세 환자 1,300여 명은 핵무기의 피해가 영구적이며 대물림된다는 것을 존재로서 증명하였습니다. 한국 원폭 피해자는 일본의 침략을 받은 피해가 민족이었던 한국 정부의 무관심과 방치라는 3종의 피해자들입니다. 이에 한국 원폭 피해자의 요구는 한미일 정부를 상대로 존재 인정, 조사, 미일 정부의 책임 인정과 사죄, 배상으로 압축할 수 있습니다. 일본 정부를 상대로 한 요구 및 미해결 과제로는 일본 정부는 한국 원폭 피해자들을 외면하고 원어법 적용에서 배제하였습니다. 이에 한국 원폭 피해자들의 권리구제 투쟁은 1970년부터 개별 소송을 통해 차별을 극복하는 투쟁을 중심으로 진행되었으며 이런 노력을 결과 2016년부터는 한국 피폭자도 일본 피폭자와 동등한 의료 지원을 받게 되었습니다. 일본 정부를 대상으로 한 요구 중 미해결 과제는 강제동원 피해자 문제입니다. 이에 피해자들은 일본의 침략과 식민지배에
16年にな
대한
っ
역사
てからです。
왜곡 중단
日
및
本政府への要求の
진정한
中で
사죄와
未解
배상을
決な
요구하고
問題
있으며
は
이와
植
관련
民地下で日本
미시미시
政府が行っ
등
た
전범기업을
朝鮮人
상
強制
대상으로
連
한
行問題です。
손해배상
被害
소송
者たちは
등이
日本の侵略と
진행되고 있습니다.
植民地支配に対する
한국 정부를
歴史の
상대로
歪
한 요구
曲
및
と歪曲をや
미해결
め
과제로는
心からの謝罪と
해방 후
賠
역대
償を
한국
求めていま
정부는
す。これに
원폭
関連して
피해자에
三
대한
菱重
보호를
工
외면해
など
왔습니다.
先般企業に
이에
対する賠
피해자와
償
피해
請求訴訟が進行中で
수십
す。
년 동안 원폭 피해자
1945年
지원
の
특별법
改革
제정,
後、韓国政府は
피해자에
原
대한
爆
전면
被害
실태
者の
조사와
保
지원
護を
대책
怠
마련,
ってきまし
한일
た。
협정에서 제외된 피해자에 대한 배상을
한국
일본으로부터
原爆
받아낼
被害者は
것을 요구하였습니다.
日韓協定から除
2016년
外された
5월
被害者へ
한국
の
국회에서
賠償などを
한국 원폭
十
피해자
数年にわたって
특별법이
要求してきました。
제정되었습니다. 그러나
2016
피해
年5月、韓国
2,
国会は
3세는
原
지원
爆被害者
대상에서
支援特別法
제외하였습니다.
を制定しました。
2,
し
3세도
かし、
지원을 받을
2
수
世
있게
3世はこの支援の対
특별법을
象から除外され
개정해야
ました。
한다.
そのため、2世 3世でも
추모
政
공원
府の支援を
조성과
受けられるよう
원폭
に
피해
差別法
유연성
を
조사는
特別法を
피해자의
改正
요구가
する必要があり
받아들여져
ます。被害者の要望に
2020년부터
は、慰
한국
霊碑の
정부
設置や原爆の時点的影響の調査など、
진행되고
一部
있습니다.
認められたものがあります。
한국은
韓
일본에
国政府は
이어
2020年以
제2의
降、
피폭
遺伝的影
국가입니다.
響に関する
그러나 한국
研究プロ
정부는
ジェクトを
지금껏
い
단
くつ
한
か
번도
外部委託し
피해
ました。
실태에 대한 전면 조사를
韓国は
시행하지
日本に次い
않았습니다.
で
이에 한국 원폭
被
피해자에
爆者
대한
がいる
기록과
国です。しかし、韓国
자료들이
政府はこれまで
흩어져
被害の実
무실되는
態を本格的
안타까운
に調査した
상황이
ことがありま
지속되고
せん。
있으며
そのため、韓国の
이에
原爆被
우리
害者に関する記録や資料がまとめられないまま
합천 원폭
失われてい
피해자
ます。
지부는 정부와 합천군에 끈질기게 요구하여 원폭 자료관을 만들고 원폭 피해 관련 기록을 모으고 책자를
韓国原爆
발간하는
被害者
사업을
協会は
진행하고
韓国
있습니다.
政府に
최근에
すごく要求し、
시민단체
2020年
평통사와
2月には
2022년
1970年代のハプチョンの原爆被害者の記録である
합천 지역 원폭 피해자
1972年ハ
관련
プチョン
기록인
原爆被害者調査など
1972년 합천
4つの
원폭
シリー
피해자
ズ全
조사서 등
11巻が刊行されました。
11권의 자료를
また、
책자로
2019年からは
발간하였습니다.
約100名の被
미국
爆者の
정부를
聞き取り
상대로
を行い、
한
証言を
요구와
集め、
민간법정
後日出
준비에
版する予定で
관한
す。
말씀을 드리자면 미국의
アメリカの
책임을
責任
묻고자
を
하는
問う
노력은
取り組みは、
2015년
2015年
NPT 9차
第
평가회의에서의
9回 NPT
피해자들의
再検討会議での
호소로부터
韓国人被
시작되었습니다.
爆者の訴
심진태
えから始まり
씨와
ました。
김봉대 씨는
韓国人被爆者
각국에서
の
참가한
シン・ジンテさん
평화단체
と
대표들에게
犠牲の
미국
父
정부의
親である
핵무기
キン・
투하
ボンジェさん
책임을
は
묻는
世界
노력을
各国の平和
함께
団体の代表に
정리하자고
対して
역설하였습니다.
核兵器を落とし
김형률은
たアメリカ
생전에
政府の
원폭 피해
責任を追
2세들의
及する努力が必
원폭
要だと
후유증에
強調し
관한
ました。
실태를 파악하고 알리는데 생을 바쳤습니다.
被爆2世のキム・ヒョンユさんは
반드시
2世の後者の
미국의
苦しみ
책임을
を
물어야
訴える
한다는
活動
뜻을
に短い
강력히
生涯を捧げました
피력함으로써
彼の
피해
活動は
1세들이
被爆1世に
미국 정부의
アメリカ
책임을
政府の責
묻는
任を追
행동에
及する
나서도록
行動を
하는데
促す
큰
きっかけとなり
촉진자
ました
역할을 하였습니다. 피폭자들이 힘을 합쳐 핵무기를 사용한 미국의 책임을 묻자
韓国の原
세계
爆被害
평화의
者による
상징 유엔은 원폭 피해
原爆被
문제를
害者が力
해결하고
を合わせ敵地にアメリカに核兵器使用の責任を問わなければなりま
우리를
せん。
위해서가 아니라
世界平和の象徴である
세계
国連は
평화를 위해서
原爆被害者問題を解決し、す
핵무기가
べての核
있는
兵
한
器
평화는
を
없다.
廃絶するために力を尽くす
피폭자
べきだ。
연대를 만들어 각국
べきです。
정부를 압박하고
私たちのためだけでなく、
피폭자 지원에
未来の
대한
世代の
유엔
ため、
총회의
世界平和のために
결의도
行動しましょう。
한국 원폭
한국
피해자들의
원박
민간법정
피해자에
추진
대해
결정은 피해자가 있는데
被害者
책임지는
による
가해자가 없다.
市民法廷を目指すこと
핵무기
に
없는
なったのは、
세계를
被害者は
실현하려면
いるが、
미국의
加害者が責任を
원폭
負って
투하에
いないから
대한
です。核
원죄적
兵器のない世
책임을
界
물어야
を実
한다는
現するために
신념에
は、
따른
アメリカ
것입니다.
が原爆投下の責任を負わなければならないという信念によるものです。
씨와 김봉대 씨와
被爆
함께
されたともに、
미국
韓国の延長や法律家な
법정에서의
どは、
소송 가능성을
アメリカの
검토해서는
裁判所に訴訟
주권
を起こす
면제라는
可能性
국제법과
を検
전투적
討しま
행위에
したが、
대한 책임을 묻지
アメリ
않는
カ法
미
法律や
국내법의
国際法
제약에
における
막혀
主権
소송을
免除
진행하기
や
어렵다는
対処義務
현실적
免
장벽
責
때문에
条項など
요구하였습니다.
現実的な障壁に直面することになりま
한국원법
した。
협회장을
そこで
비롯한
現在
한국원법 피해자 협회 임원들은 먼저 민간 법정을 열어
私た
미국
ち
정부의
原爆被害者協
반인도적
会は
범죄
ま
행위에
ず市民
책임을
法廷
물은
を
다음
通じて
민간
蓄
법정을
積され
통해
た
다진
内容や
내용과
証
근거를 토대로
証拠に基づ
실제
き実際の
소송의
訴訟
길을
の
모색하기로
道筋を
하였습니다.
探っていこうとしてい
민간
ます。
법정 준비 활동
2025년 또는 2026년 사이 미국에서 민간 법정을 여는 것을 목표로 진행하며 그때까지 한국 국내에서 토론회, 일본과 미국에서 두세 차례 국제 토론회를 개최할 것입니다. 민간법정 준비 모임은 매달 한 차례 회의 및 세미나, 시모다 재판 판례, 1996년 국제사법재판소의 판결과 재판관의 의견을 중심으로 검토하고 있습니다. 미국 내에서의 정보 공개, 자료 조사도 병행하고 있습니다. 이후 일본 자료 및 한국 내 자료 조사도 진행할 것입니다. 소송의 원고로 나설 분들의 연세가 80에 가까워지고 있어 이분들이 활동할 수 있는 시간이 고작 몇 년이 지나지 않습니다. 그런데도 미국 정부라는 높은 벽에 부담을 가진 능력 있는 학자와 단체들이 이 모임에 참여를 꾸리는 것이 현실입니다. 취지에 동의하는 법률가들을 모아 반핵 법률가 협회를 구성하자는 계획도 세우고 있습니다. 이러한 상황에서 앞선 경험을 가진 일본 원수협, 반핵 법률가 협회, 미국 내 활동 단체들의 지원과 참여는 민간 법정이 성과적으로 개최되는 데 큰 힘이 될 것입니다. 많은 관심과 참여를 바라며 경목이 없는 세계 실현을 위한 다른 길에서도 연대를 같이 하시기 바랍니다. 감사합니다. 한국 원법 피해자 최근 현황과 미해결 과제에 대해서 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 먼저 그 배경으로 1945년 미국의 원폭 투하로 히로시마, 나가사키에서 피폭된 한국인은 약 10만여 명으로 이 중 사망자는 5만여 명으로 추정됩니다. 이 중 상당수는 일제의 강제동원 피해자들입니다. 살아남은 피폭자 4만 3천여 명은 해방 후 고향으로 돌아왔으나 피폭 후유증으로 고생하다 죽어갔습니다. 원폭 피해자 협회에 등록된 한국 피폭 1세는 현재 1992명에 불과하며
Thank you. And sorry, I let the video go over a little bit there. It just kind of repeats itself. So if you didn't hear anything at the end, that was just a repeat of the beginning there. But thank you very much for that recorded speech. And we have now coming up next, very exciting speaker. This is Abaka Anjan Madison, the former senator from Rongelap Atoll and an indigenous member of the women's organization called Rukjiling, which is on the Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands.
Thank you. Warm greetings and yakwe from the Marshall Islands. And again, my name is Abakan Jane Madison, a former senator for people of Rongelap Atoll and a member of Rukjiling Women's Club here on Kwajalein Atoll. At the outset, I'm very privileged and humbled for the invitation to be part of this history in the making event, a celebration of a well-deserved IPB nominees to the Nobel Peace Prize of Cristobal, AKA Anti-Hope, and the Hibakusha. The nominees have done so much and beyond to advance the fight for world peace and justice to humanity. Their stories are very similar to ours in the Marshall Islands. I'd like to take us back to the history of Marshall Islands back in 1954, when the strongest hydrogen bomb exploded on Bikini Atoll by the United States. It almost wiped out the very existence of the population on Rongelap Atoll. Until today, the lingering contaminants continue to destroy our sacred lands, health, and well-being of our people. Many members of my family and friends have died of cancer or ill. Just last week, my cousin left this life for better in heaven. He was one of many children who grew up on Rongelap, endured many hardships. His normal life was taken away by the biological bombs tested on the community. He had polio disease. There's nothing good about nuclear weapons. So unless they're eradicated from the face of the earth, we can truly be living in peace. And there's no better time than now, amid Putin's war, to strongly voice that peace is the answer. I'm very pleased to report that my government has joined the majority member of the world to condemn Russia for waging war on Ukraine, killing innocent lives, especially women and children. We pray that the war will end soonest. This is a celebration indeed. Auntie Hope is truly an amazing woman. Her love for Guahan and people is so great that she would move mountains. And she has done that per se. She represents the women of the Micronesian region, including the Marshall Islands. Auntie Hope, we call a woman like you as Karemankul and Karain Chon Chabubel. We love you. To our brothers and sisters from Japan, the Hibakushas, you are incredibly brave, even in illnesses and when things get tough, you stay the course and more determined. You are our hero. To IPB and those involved, I salute you for the job well done. This is just the beginning of this celebration, and I look forward, we should look forward to a bigger celebration. On behalf of people of Rongelap, I wish the two nominees all the best. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Abaka. My sister, my comrade.
Yes, my sister.
Thank you for being with us today, and a powerful message as always that you bring into our special occasions. After Abaka, I think we now have to listen to somebody who has for many years, decades in fact, been at the forefront of the struggle of radiation survivors. He is the president of PARS, which stands for Pacific Association for Radiation Survivors, and a longtime advocate for the inclusion of Guam in the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. Indeed, a very important work that continues to be waged on behalf of the survivors. May I now call on Robert Celestron to give us his presentation. Robert?
Lisa, are we ready?
Hi, Robert.
Don't worry, it's gonna come up for screen share. You're good.
Yes, Hapaday, para Hamzu Todos, Guam si Robert Namalik Celestial. I'm originally from Guam. I'm retired from the U.S. Army and I was stationed on Inuit Atoll on the island of Lojua in 1977 to clean up and help build Rennet Dome. I am currently the president for the Pacific Association Radiation Survivors here at Guam that was formed in 2001. The people of Guam were kept in the dark through secrecy and being exposed to nuclear fallout with no information telling them that they were exposed to ionizing radiation. And it was declassified in 1994. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. This is our logo. We're advocating for Guam's inclusion in Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, CORICA. Next slide, please. And this is a resolution from the 36th Guam legislature to Congress from Speaker Therese Terlahi. And what it is expressing support for the passage of two bills, Senate Bill 2798 and HR 5338 on September 22nd, 2021 to include Guam as downwinders of the U.S. Pacific Test Site, extended fund claims period, and improved compensation benefits. Next slide, please. Next slide. There you go. The Pacific Association of Radiation Survivors is a 20-year-old nonprofit organization that advocates for inclusion of Guam downwinders under the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. I found Lieutenant Bert Schreiber. He was retired from the U.S. Navy. He was in Guam, and his sworn affidavit noted that Guam's radiation exposure to the nuclear testing in the Marshall Islands was off the scale here on Guam. Measuring radiation exposure, information relative to the exposure of Guam was classified until 1994. That's correction. I discovered it in all the declassified documents and pursued an affidavit from Schreiber, which gave us a notarized testimony that he was in Guam from 1952, and his Geiger counters were going off the scale. And next slide, please. And I had a chance to visit Lieutenant Bert Schreiber when he was alive in 2018, when I came back from Washington, D.C. to present our case before the National Academies of Science. Next, please. And over the years, we have built a frontline community group with New Mexico, which is Tina Cordova, and bottom is Mary Dixon from Utah, and Tona Henderson from Idaho, and Phil Harrison's photograph's not here. Loretta Anderson is not here. However, we meet every Thursday on Zoom, trying to advocate and push our two bills to get passed in Congress. Next, please. The Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, RECA, established an administrative program to file claims related to atmospheric nuclear testing. The program provides an apology and monetary compensation to individuals that contract certain cancers and other serious diseases from radioactive exposure. Next, please. Next, please. Thank you. The United States government detonated 66 nuclear devices in the Marshall Islands between 1946 and 1962.
Put it back. Close the door.
It's approximately 1,200 miles directly west of the Marshall Islands, and the jet streams carry radioactive material as fine dust particles. The reports from Navy indicating having full knowledge, yet did not warn the people and help the people of Guam, compromising the integrity of the military force that put Guam to protect the very people they were harming. Next, please. Thank you. The United States Navy performed radioecological studies on the surface water in and around Guam and found a major peak of radioactive contamination in 1959. As a result of the radiation exposure, residents of Guam are at high risk of serious illnesses and such cancer. Next, please. Thank you. In 2004, I was invited by Dr. Isa Musi, who's on our right, which is my left, and she invited me to come before the Board of Radiation Effects Research Committee and testify and give testimony for Guam. And on my right side is the chairperson of the Prayer Committee, Dr. Julian Preston, and I submitted oral and written testimony before the committee. Next, please. So, and in 2005, a year later, they published a book and a report to Congress. And in the report, it gave a conclusion on page 200. And the conclusion was, as a result of its analysis, the committee concluded that Guam did receive measurable fallout from atmospheric testings of nuclear weapons in the Pacific. Residents of Guam during that period should be eligible for compensation under RICA in a similar way to that of persons considered to be downwinders. Next, please. Next slide. Yes, and so this here is an error. It says page 183, but actually it's page 200. And it came from the assessment of the scientific information for the radiation exposure screening and educational program from the National Research Council. And this was their conclusion from the committee that was initiated and studied our documents and testimonies that we had. And it was a great conclusion. And now that's why we are in the bill to be included in the radiation exposure compensation. Next, please. Yes, and two benefits of RICA. It's medical benefits for eligible recipients and amendment to provide 150,000 eligible downwinders. And who is eligible? Eligibility dates, all individuals who were present in Guam between 1946 and 1962 for at least 1 year. Next, please. These are the types of cancers that are included in RICA. Today, the leukemia, but not chronic lymphocytic leukemia, is not included. However, in the amendments of the two bills, this is added to be included. Next, please. Next slide. And in 2018, as you can see, the speaker is right behind me, Speaker Teresa Rahi. She supported us greatly there in Washington, D.C. I was invited with the President Nez from Navajo Nation, Tona Henderson from Idaho, and on my left side was Tina Cordova from New Mexico. We testified before the Judiciary Committee. He was Senator Crapo, Senator Booker, who was the chairperson and ranking member, and we presented our case to be included in RICA, which is the Radiation Exposure Compensation Rule. And that concludes my presentation. I would like to greatly thank and congratulate Hope Cristobal for being nominated as a Nobel Peace Prize nominee. So God bless and thank you very much for having my presentation.
Thank you, Robert. So we are nearing the end of our event for today. However, we do have time where we will now be including a video. I'm not sure if let's see, one of our co-hosts, either Lisa or Adessa, wants to give a quick introduction to this video, which I believe is being released for the first time at this moment, if I'm correct. Lisa, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. So one of our projects this year has been in partnership with the peacemakers across the globe, or I'm sorry, Peace Women across the globe. And that's the organization of the 1,000 women who were nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in one particular year. And so we received funding for them to do an intergenerational project around peace. And so what we have is a video of a discussion between Auntie Hope Cristobal and two of her granddaughters. And so at our webinar here is our launch of this video. And of course, we'll be using it for educational purposes forward. Thank you.
Genesis, do you want to share what your vision of peace would be for the future?
I think what peace would look like for the future would be people getting along to make our land and not use it as unnecessary things for our island.
Manana Sizuos.
Manana Sizuos.
Can you tell me who you are?
My name's Malia.
My name is Genesis.
My name is Marina.
Most young people call me Auntie Lo or Sina Lo, so you can call me whichever name you feel comfortable with, okay? Today, we're going to be talking about a very special topic. Do you know what the topic is?
What peace is about?
Exactly what peace is about. What is the meaning of peace to you?
Like when people are being nice to me or respectful and they know my boundaries. It's more likely with no stress and a lot of happiness.
I think peace means freedom of disturbance.
What does peace look like at home?
When people help me do my chores or they cook food for me. When I am not sad or I do not have stress at all.
What does peace look like at school?
Peace at school is more likely when we get to play around and we do not have to do much work, so then we don't get any stress at home or school.
There's no fights at my school, and the teachers there really interact with.
Sorry, I guess I was playing the incorrect video here. Lisa, do you have the correct one queued up somewhere?
It's on the same email. I mean, the same link. It's the other one.
Okay.
Let me grab it real quick. Give me a sec.
Okay.
But
yep.
You have it?
I we'll check if this is the correct one then.
Sorry about that, folks, because we had 3 versions of it. So we're
okay. I clicked on one that said final, so I assumed that had been correct. But
okay, and it's the one that's called Resource Protectors.
Okay, let me just see real quick here, make sure that, okay, yes, this is Resource Protectors. Okay, so take 2. My apologies for that there.
It can help better our quality of life if we have more control over our resources that are going to eventually affect our future and our culture and our people.
Buenas and hafade. Guahu si Hope Cristobal, familyan Alabado, hagastauto sinahanya zua. I 2 na jovencita Gwini Pagu, I nieta si Isa Tanaka, then si Inina Tanaka.
Hi, I'm Inina Tanaka.
Hi, I'm Isa Tanaka.
And this is our Nana, Hope Cristobal.
And she's a resource protector.
You do know what resources are, don't you?
So like the water we drink, and then the air that we breathe, and then resources that come from the land.
Yes, including forests and all the life in the forest. Why are resources important to protect?
Because if we don't have them, we can get very sick, and also so the next generation can live on Guam and have a happy life.
Wonderful.
So our resources help us survive, and more than survive, but thrive in our lives. And water is the source of life. It affects our food and everything around us in general.
And so the sources of water on a small tiny island like Guam, for example, we have Fena Lake and we have the Ugam River that provides water for the southern half of our island. Up in the north, we have the Northern Guam Lens Aquifer, which is a sole source aquifer that basically provides our drinking water for over 70% of the island. The largest villages, Dedido and Jigo, sit right on top of the aquifer. And so does the Anderson Air Force Base, the New Marine Base, Tamuning, Tomhom, and other villages of the northern half of Guam. So these are areas that we need to keep track of and make sure that the water is not contaminated, because right now we do have a lot of contamination going on, especially with PFAS, for example, or the forever chemical that has been found in many of our municipal wells. So what would happen to our community if we don't protect our resources, or if we run out of our natural resources?
We wouldn't have food or water to keep us healthy, and we would get sick.
With how scarce resources are already starting to become, we're seeing that people are starting to get desperate for things that should be easily accessible, and it's ruining a lot of quality of life, and it can tear people apart, and a sense of unity that you have in our community is lost. It'll also greatly affect the next generation if they come into our community and it's already broken down.
What are some of the ways that we can work to protect our resources?
We can minimize our buildings so we can have more land.
It also reduces pollution in the air from the building. We can also bring awareness to the topic so more people can take action against it.
Instead of using fossil fuels, we can start using like solar panels.
Wonderful. Those are some of the ways that we can protect our resources. Education. But sometimes we need to do action work. Actions are needed when you need to make a statement to those that make the decisions. For the most part, the general community is not in a position to make decisions. We are asked for our opinion, but it is not guaranteed that the process will allow our community to be heard. So we can put up signs, we can organize protests, and we can talk to our friends and get them involved. And I like the idea of solar panels because there's an abundance of natural resources out there. And the sun is one, the ocean thermal energy can be used. We need to begin to change our ways from the more consumption type of living to a more contribution for each other, for our community. In the work of protecting resources is this aspect of demilitarization. We need to look at it in its various components and how it affects our lives, our health, and our state of being here in a small island.
What is demilitarization?
Demilitarization is like lessening the impact of the military on our resources. We can begin there. We can also address the influx of military on the island. And those are some of the easier ways that we can speak up about because we see them, they're visible. There may be other ways to demilitarize. Why is demilitarization important for our community?
Well, the military has a lot of influence on our island. They control most of our water, they control a lot of our land. They also have a big influence on the people who live on Guam. And with a lot of people coming in and out, that can affect our air, our land. And with a lot of people, there's more consumption of resources, so there's less for the people of Guam. It can help better our quality of life if we have more control over our resources that are going to eventually affect our future, our culture, and our people.
So our island right now is very close to being 1/3 under the control of the military. And demilitarization is needed because the resources, say for example, the aquifer is getting contaminated through the activities of the military. So demilitarization is something that we all need to hang our hat on. There's a lot of work, even for our younger generation, for the elders as well. So we need to keep our ears open and we need to keep our minds open and we need to make sure to pay attention to what the military is doing and how it's impacting our land, our air, and our water.
Thank you, Nana, who guides how.
Ni ade si Zeus na ase param zur na dos.
That's right. Okay, hit.
Okay, that was great. Sidus maase. I think we are reaching the end of our celebration today. I wonder whether Sean, is Philip on, or we're going to ask Rainer, right?
Yes, yeah, Rainer will give us some closing remarks.
Okay, come on, Rainer. We need you to give us some pep talk before we go into the final song that we are going to have this evening. So, Rainer?
You know, what to say? What for a great webinar. What for a convincing webinar. What for great speakers, convincing arguments, great musicians, great poems. I can only thank all of you who are a part of this webinar. You have really done a great, wonderful job. It was really convincing. And I think we should send this webinar to the Nobel Laureate Committee, that it can show how important are our suggestions. And I'm a little bit proud of IPB, that after a really good democratic process, we universally were choosing Hope, Cristobal, and the Hibakusha from Korea and Japan for this award. I think we have done really a great job. And all of you who helped to come to this decision, I can only say thank you. Thanks to all the speakers, to the musicians, but also thanks to the IPB Asian network for preparing it. And definitely thanks to the translators for the great work that we can understand the emotions, the argument, and the facts the people were bringing to us. It was great to join this webinar. And you know, there will never be a coexistence between nuclear weapons and peace. And we have to do everything to abolish nuclear weapons from our planet. And I'm saying this sitting in Berlin, less than 1,000 kilometers far away from this brutal Ukraine war. And I would underline that we need peace also for Ukraine, and we are calling again for an immediately ceasefire in these wars, and the Russian troops should go home so quick as possible. But this war again shows how near we are the danger of a third world war. When people are speaking about sending troops to again from NATO, when people are speaking about so-called no-fly zones, I can only say these are steps in the direction of a worldwide nuclear catastrophe. And we have to do everything to abolish it. So I would underline the important sentence of the Bulletin of Atomic Science. We are, because of climate change and nuclear weapons, 100 seconds before 12. So let us strengthen our forces and this webinar, and to get the Nobel Peace Prize for an anti-nuclear weapons organization again is a part of this fight, which we are continue. I think we will all meet online and offline at the first state conference for the Treaty for Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. We were doing a lot for promote this treaty, and we will continue doing it because it is a very important step on the way to a nuclear weapons-free zone. And IPB will do definitely everything for fighting for a better world. We are working on our new Olaf Palme report for common security, because common security, foreign politics, which accept also the interest of the other side, is the alternative for confrontation and war. And looking to Ukraine, I can see it is even more urgent than it ever was. So the word demilitarization is definitely the key word for IPB. Demilitarization of the beautiful island of Guam, which I really would like to visit. Demilitarization, but also in Japan, where I'm looking to Okinawa and other surroundings and other islands. But demilitarization also at the border between Russia and Ukraine to come to more peace. Demilitarization also includes the fight for reducing of military spending. In what world we are living? We are living in a world of hunger and poverty and spending 2 trillion every year for military spending. This is not what we want. And for me, this webinar underlined from a moral perspective, from an emotional perspective, but also with many, many good arguments, our common fight. And I can only say I was so happy to see again many old friends. And let's continue fight together. We are the people, we are fighting for the surviving of our planet, for nuclear and general disarmament, for a world in peace. And thank you all for joining us today, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. I wish all of you a very nice weekend and all the best in the future fight for a peaceful world. Thank you so much.
I think we are now closing our webinar with one final song by Akira, who had also presented our music at the beginning here.
はい、それでは、家族と一緒に歌っていきたいと思います。今、お話にもあったようにウクライナとロシアのこの戦争状態の中で、だからこそ核兵器をなくそう、今本当にその時なんだというふうに私たちも思います。こういった状況の中でも先日も核兵器禁止条約の批准国が、増えました。それはやっぱり世界はこういう状況の中だからこそ核兵器をなくそうと市民が声を上げている証拠だと思います。核兵器禁止条約の TPNW に、詩をつけました。マラヤ・ファブロス、友人のマラヤ・ファブロスが素敵な詩を作ってくれました。Towards a Peaceful New World、後戻りはしないという歌です。The time is now, more than ever. No more turning back. One more. The time is now, more than ever. No more turning back. The time is now, more than ever. No more turning back. The road to a peace and a just war is already paved. Let us walk this road together, hands together, heads held high. The time is now, more than ever. No more turning back. The time is now. その時が来た。今こそもう後戻りはしない。The time is now. その時が来た。今こそもう後戻りはしない。平和な世界へ続く道は開かれた。踏み固め歩こう。手をつないで前を向いて。One, two, three. The time is now, more than ever. No more turning back. The time is now, more than ever. No more
Thank you, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and weekend.
Happy birthday, Tita-san.
Happy birthday.